there, welcome to Inkquiring Minds. My name is Doug and I'm back with another Pen Resurrection Sunday video. Today's dead fountain pen on the slab, ready for resurrection to the land of the writing, is this box. And this box contains a vintage, very vintage, Sheaffer Balance set from the 1930s. And this is the Sheaffer Balance 875. 875 is not the model name, it was the price, printed right into the barrel of the pen. 875 stood for $8.75, circa mid-1930s. The Sheaffer Balance 500 was a $5 pen, and the Sheaffer Balance 1000 was a $10 pen. You see how it goes. The difference between the Sheaffer Balance 500, which I just recently restored one of those, and you can see that video by clicking right up there. The difference between the 500 and the 875 is the 500 didn't have the white dot, which meant it was a Sheaffer lifetime warranty, and the nib was a feather touch nib, not the lifetime nib that's on this pen. Now the original box here is in rough shape, and there's lots of old rust and everything. I'm going to try to clean that out, and we'll clean up the leather on the outside of that metal case. But I'm going to focus on the pen and the pencil and get them writing again. The reason I was attracted to this on the eBay auction was because of the rough shape it's in. Knowing that the hardware that Sheaffer made back in the 1930s and 40s was very deep, usually gold filled, not gold plated, cleans up rather nicely. But this is going to be a challenge because there's a lot of pitting on that clip, as you can see around the tip and on the crown of that clip. So let's triage this pen and pencil set to see what's going to be required to get them back looking and writing like new again. First off, let's take a look at the fountain pen, and I'm going to put the fountain pen up here and show it to you so you can see it all the way around, both capped and uncapped, so you can see what it looks like, because I'm going to put the restored items down below here so you can see them right away. Now you don't have to watch the rest of the video. So let's take a look at this pen. As I mentioned, the corrosion is very deep, very rough to the touch, but the celluloid on that barrel looks very good. There's some scratches here and there and a lot of wear after about 90 years. Nice gouge right there, another one there. So we'll use some 400 grit on this, and these clips do not come off, so we'll have to sand and buff around it. The cap band has what looks like brassing on it, but what I've found is sometimes that brassing is just corrosion. And if you polish it, the gold comes through and that marring goes away. Now the barrel has a nice deep imprint. W.A. Sheaffer Pen Company, Fort Madison, Iowa, USA, patented in the USA. 875, again the price of the pen. And this is a lever filler, and there's our lever. And it's crunchy, so there's a crunchy sack on the inside of there. Yum, crunchy sack.
Next we have number 4, crunchy frog.
Ah, yes.
Am I right in thinking there's a real frog in here?
Yes, a little one.
Well, don't you even take the bones out?
If we took the bones out, it wouldn't be crunchy, would it?
And lots of abrasion and wear on that tapering end of the barrel, and a few nice gouges as well. But that will all polish up nicely. Let's take a look at the nib now. So here we are with the two-toned lifetime Sheaffer nib, and it has a patent number on it. Those numbers are always very confusing. And this one says E56450, Sheaffer lifetime Reg US Pat Off, which is registered with the US Patent Office and made in the USA at the base. The section is an Inkview celluloid section, so I'm hoping we can get this off. And there's lots of cap wear there. I can even feel that cap wear right there. So that's going to require some 400 grit to get that off. And let's get some gripper here and see whether we can get this section off without any... Oh, it's moving. So I must have already tried this. Yeah, it's moving. It shows shellac on there, but it wasn't stuck on the inside. And there are the remnants of the old sack inside, so we'll have to scrape that out. So let's put those parts aside and take a look at the pencil. The pencil doesn't have quite as much corrosion on it, just at the tip right there. The cap band looks like it's in good shape except for one piece of corrosion, I think. Yeah, that feels like corrosion right there. And it has Sheaffer's made in the USA, patented in the USA, imprinted on the back. The barrel looks pretty good. Typical wear, one nice gouge. That gold tip looks very good as well, a little bit of corrosion. Let's see if it turns and works. Yep, there. So the propelling pencil part mechanism works. See if we can get that tip off. No, it might require some heat. And let's take the cap off. There's a very old eraser right there. You can take that off. Oh, and there's a lead. It looks like a red lead. It is a red lead. Let's see if we can put that lead back in. Let's move the mechanism back a little bit. This red lead is not the right size. So I wonder why that was in there. I hope I didn't do that. There's no other lead in there. Well, I'll have to find the right diameter and see whether I can get that lead working, but it should work. So this will just require some polishing. I'm going to put these parts in my ultrasonic machine filled with pen flush, which is 9 parts distilled water and 1 part ammonia. We'll let it soak for 2-3 minutes, and hopefully that'll free up some of the old ink, and it might even clean up that nib a little bit more too. So let's take a look at it here on the left with the section and the feed in place. There's that feed, Ebonite, looking very good, and there's no marks on that section, and the nipple on this section looks very good. The last one I restored was starting to fall apart, and I had to rebuild it. And there's the tail of that feed, which is typically offset on an angle like that on purpose. So we'll see what this looks like after the bath. And here we are, fresh out of the bath. You can see that nib is already cleaned up a little bit, looking very good. And I think it softened that old sack inside the barrel so I can begin picking it out of there. Just for measurement's sake, it's 133.7 millimeters long. That's about 5 3/8 inches, which makes this a full-length slender girth Sheaffer Balance 875, probably made between 1936 and 1940. It could be as young as 1942. So now I'm going to try to knock that feed out. You need some special kind of knockout tool for this because of that eccentric feed that tapers down toward and touches the edge of the inside of that nipple there. So I have to use a cylindrical knockout, and I've got a small plastic tube that works for that purpose, and we'll get on our knockout block and try to get that nib and feed out. Dial up the right hole in the block, and here's the tube that I think fits around that feed. No, this one doesn't. And there we are, I got them apart. What I did was I put one tine of my tweezers down the side and tapped it gently, and it pushed on that bit of the feed and pushed it all the way out. So let's take a look at the nib here on the left-hand side and see what it looks like before I polish it up. And that is gold two-tone with, I think that's platinum plating on those nibs from back then. And let's look at the section. There it is, looking very good, but can be shined up even more. And then the feed before polishing and cleaning. There's some old ink on there. We'll get that off in the ultrasonic bath, and we'll polish up the visible part of that Ebonite feed. And in the meantime, I'm going to use my dental scraper tool to get the remnants of that latex sack out of there. And I've scraped out most of the debris, I think, and we'll go down the barrel with our inspection camera and see how well it's working. And we'll give that lever a few pulls as well. See, it's clean as a whistle. Excellent. Now we can go ahead and polish up the cap and the barrel. We'll put the barrel up here to see what it looks like before I polish it with my micro mesh and my polishing compound on my Dremel tool. And this is the most interesting piece here. What's going to happen with that clip when I polish it up and that cap band? I'm going to clean the remnants of the old sack off of the nipple of that section. It's all ossified and full of old shellac, so we'll just chip it off. Old shellac on latex has the consistency of glass and chips away like glass, and it's shiny. There you can see how shiny that edge is right there. And there's the section. I have chipped all the old shellac off of that celluloid nipple, sanded down the surface, and it's looking as clean as it's going to get, and it'll just need some polishing. These sections are usually, for pens of this era, usually Ebonite, but Sheaffer, of course, used celluloid for the section because they wanted the transparency to be able to see your ink levels. So that was a feature. But in my experience, Ebonite sections are a little bit easier to maintain and tend to last longer, as these celluloid sections sometimes would crack and craze with age. And here I've polished up the nib feed and section. Let's take a look at the nib over here on the right hand side, so you can see what it looks like. All polished up. These are very difficult to hold on to. Very difficult to hold on to for the camera. There we go. Looks beautiful. The two-tone is still intact, and it's beautiful front and back. And there's the section, looking almost brand new and clean. Lovely. And very translucent as well. And here is the feed, shined up like a piano key. Beautiful. The visible part is very shiny. And most of that old ink is off of there and ready to go back into the pen. I'm thinking that I want to give this nib a test to see how it writes. Let's just take a look at the alignment first. It's not too bad. Needs a little bit of adjustment. And it looks perfectly aligned, and there's a good nib slit there as well. You can see it might actually need to get a little bit tighter. Depends on how wet it actually ends up being. But it looks like a medium nib to me, a fine to a medium. And let's see whether we can put this back and put this section back in the pen. It's actually fairly loose in there, but I need that in the pen just to give it some gripping leverage. And then we'll place the nib on the feed so that it's lined up properly. And there's, on the Sheaffers, there's a bit of a divot right there where that feed lives. It's shaped perfectly, so you know exactly how that nib needs to be aligned. We're going to grip it top and bottom and press it into the section, and then check the alignment. There, the alignment looks perfect, and the feed alignment looks perfect as well. So I'm just going to use this as a holder so I can dip test this nib. It's actually slipping around a bit. Just put a bit of painter's tape around it here just to hold it in place. There we go, so it doesn't slip on me. And let's get out some paper and some Waterman's Serenity Blue and see what we have. Visually it looks good. I'll just dip it in the ink here. I'm going to call this a circa 1936 to say 40 Sheaffer Balance 875, and this, it's a medium to a fine, or fine to medium, I'm guessing. Let's see if there's some line variation. Not a lot of line variation. This is what you might call a manifold nib, and it has a good amount of feedback to it, but it's very wet. Let's check the wetness. It's very wet, and it's a beautiful writer. So now I'm excited to polish up the rest of this pen and then resack it. And there's our pen all shined up. Let's take a look at the cap first. We'll put it down here. Now that corrosion is right into the brass, unfortunately. So you can see those pit marks right there and at the end of the clip. But the cap band came up very nicely. Just a few places where you'd have to really look to see that there's a little bit of corrosion there. But everything else is nice and shiny. And the barrel is excellent. There's that imprint still visible, and all the scratches are gone, and the levers all shined up. Those impressions of the cap band were really deep, and I didn't want to lose too much material, and it will continue to score that barrel as you cap and uncap this pen. Just the nature of the beast. So now all we have to do, simple enough, is put the nib and section back in the barrel with a new sack on it, and we'll do that next. Okay, so it's the next day. I've done some work on the case. It's looking very nice. I cleaned all the grime off it, and then I added some, I just wiped it down with Armor All. And it looks almost brand new. On the outside anyway, almost brand new. On the inside, not so much, but that's vintage. And I've got a very shiny pencil. That came up very nicely. There's some brassing, but it's looking very, very nice indeed. So now what we need to do is resack this pen. So we'll put the case and the pencil aside, We'll remove that section. I've got my sack spreader, got my talc, and the section's nice and clean. That nib is nicely aligned and polished, and the inside of the barrel is clean, and that lever is working. So let's go ahead and resack this pen. So I've got a number 16 size latex sack here that will fit nicely inside this barrel. We need to size it first. So what you do is check to where the section will come when it's installed, and then the sack is going to come right to the end of that nipple, which is just about 2 millimeters below those last threads. And then I'm going to cut it there, and then I'm going to add another couple of millimeters just to keep the sack from touching the very bottom of the barrel. I don't like that latex sack to touch the inside of the barrel where it isn't necessary. So I put the sack all the way into the barrel, pinch it where it's right at the end of the barrel, and trim it right there. And then we're going to trim it about 2 millimeters short of those threads. And it's not rocket science. Cut with an axe. So that will come to just about there inside the barrel. Now let's do a test fit. Put the sack on my sack spreader and just do a test fit. The trick with the Sheaffer Balance with that little tail feed is that you got to get it up over that feed that sticks out right there. There we go. So that looks just about right. So now I'm going to get my barrel out of the way so I don't get shellac on it. I'm going to be very careful. I don't want to get shellac on that celluloid right there. I'm going to get my shellac pen from the inky nib and just paint the end of that nipple right there. We get our sack spreader again and get it up over top of that feed and just give it a slight twist right there. There, so it's sitting nice and straight all the way around. And then I'm just going to paint some shellac around that seam just to ensure there are no leaks all the way around. And then we let that dry for several hours. And that little bit of shellac, once it's dry even, should be enough to hold that section in that barrel when we get there. Okay, here we are again. That shellac has completely dried, and we're going to add some talc to that sack so that it won't stick to the inside of the barrel. And it's not just to get the sack to slide inside the barrel while you're installing it. This talc helps keep that latex sack pliable and non-stick on the inside of that barrel for a long time, because when it sticks it'll start to bind, and that's when the sack will tear or ossify, which is $1 million word for dry out. So I'm going to place this section inside the barrel. We're going to place it so the nib and the lever line up. That little bit of shellac that I overpainted should hold the section from spinning around. Just going to grab some gripper material just so I can make sure I get a good grip and a good push. We should be lined up. There we go. And let's push it in. There we go. Now it's adjustable. It's not spinning around like it was. I'm going to fill this pen with some ink, and we're going to see how much capacity I've got. And once I know that I'm not going to be taking that off again, I'll just add a little bit of heat around that section and barrel, and that'll make that shellac that's on the inside a little bit tacky and just sort of seal that section down to the barrel. First, let's get our writing materials out again and some Waterman's ink, and we're going to weigh this pen first. Very light pen, 7.55 grams, pressed hair. And the key is when you're filling a lever filler is to pull on that lever with the section in the ink, and then when you flip the lever back up again, count to 5 steamboats, or 5 Massachusetts, or 5 Saskatchewans, whatever have you. Should hear bubbles when I pull. There are the bubbles. And I let the lever go and count 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to pull it once more. Didn't hear any bubbles that time. Let it go. 3, 4, 5. And it should be full. 0.76, almost 0.8 milliliters of ink, which is pretty good for a slim Sheaffer Balance with a number 16 size sack. So here we are again with a circa 1936 to 40, I'm guessing, Sheaffer Balance. 875, and it has a 14 karat gold, two-tone fine to medium nib. Again, a wetness is very, very good. There's not a lot of line variation. This is a fairly stiff nib, what we call a manifold nib, and there's a good amount of feedback. It's very smooth and writes very nicely, but there is some feedback. I think I'm going to polish that out, or some of it out anyway. Get out some 8,000 grit micromesh and some 12,000 grit micromesh, and just add a drop of water for lubrication. The ink works as well, but I like to have a little bit more lubrication. In my writing angle, we're going to give it 8 strokes vertically, up and down, horizontally, all points of the compass, counterclockwise circles, 8 clockwise, 8, the infinity symbol, and figure 8s, just like that. And then I'm going to follow it up with some 12,000 grit. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now that's really nice and smooth. So let's check our line widths here, horizontally, vertically, and with a push. Yeah, it's not much wider with a push. Get out my pad, and that is 0.4, 0.5, with a push 0.7 millimeters, and that definitely is a fine nib. And there we go. I'd say that's completely restored, along with the pencil. I'm going to find some leads for that pencil. So there, I put a pencil lead in the Balance pencil, and that is a 0.9 millimeter lead. I just used these 9 millimeter HB leads, and it works perfectly. And there's our whole set and case, and I'll be back with my thoughts about this resurrection right now. So what are my thoughts about this pen resurrection? Well, you saw it here, folks. That clip was looking really, really awful. Now there's still some pitting in there because that corrosion went right deep into the metal. But you have to get close to it to see it. And that cap band came up with very, very little brassing on it, right just on the edge, just barely on the edge now. This is a beautiful looking fountain pen. And that celluloid golden brown stripe is just gorgeous. The imprint is still very prevalent. The lever filler works beautifully, and that nib is a beautiful, fine 14 karat gold nib. Very stiff. If you're looking for vintage flex, this is not the nib for you, but a beautiful, smooth, wet, fine writer with a beautiful two-tone nib and a polished up Ebonite feed and an ink view window. The pen posts beautifully and writes beautifully. And the pencil came up marvelously. There's no pitting on that clip, and the cap band is perfect, and there's a nice strong imprint on the back of the pencil. It takes 0.9 millimeter leads and works perfectly. I was very pleased with how the vintage case came up. Just cleaned off a bunch of the grime and put some Armor All on it, and it looks great. Now the inside is 90 years old, but we've got the original box. So there you have it, a restored Sheaffer Balance pen and pencil set, $8.75, lever filling fountain pen in the original box. And I'm going to sell this pen for $200 US plus shipping. If you're a member of my channel, you get a discount. Basic members at 99 cents a month will only pay $180 for this pen, whereas patron members at $5 a month will get this pen and pencil set for $160, which is a bargain indeed. And before we go, I wanted to show you the difference between a full-size Sheaffer Balance and a slimline full-size Sheaffer Balance. Both of these pens are the same length, but the pen below, this one in green, is the full thickness. This is called the full-size slender Sheaffer Balance. I just got this one in the mail yesterday, so I wanted to show it to you. You'll be seeing it on a future Pen Resurrection Sunday. This is not a lever filler, however. This is a 500 balance, but it is a vacuum filler. So and it's kind of crunchy. So this is a little bit more involved of a resurrection, but we see the same beautiful two-tone 14 karat gold nib. That is a feather touch nib. So there you can see the difference between those two. and a resurrected pen and an unresurrected pen. So let me know in the comment section below what you think of this resurrection and whether you want to see more like it. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and you'll get cool emojis, badges, sneak peek unboxing videos, as well as instant access to these videos the moment I post them, and the aforementioned discounts on resurrected fountain pens. And that just leaves it for me to say thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.